Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio, welcoming you to another edition of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org, for more info, or you can email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Jeannette Gagan. We'll be discussing her book, Grow Up Your Ego, 10 Scientifically Validated Stages to Emotional and Spiritual Maturity. Now, guys, that's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, but listen, really, if you want to get the full experience of everything that Jeannette has to offer, you have to head directly to her personal website. That is RioChama.publications.com. That's RioChama Publications.com. There, not only will you be able to find Grow Up Your Ego, but you'll also be able to find 2 other titles that Jeannette has written, and you'll be able to purchase them all there, as well as finding out information on Jeannette herself. Okay, so you definitely do yourself a favor. Get to her personal website, purchase the books from there. You will not be disappointed, okay? Now, Jeannette was brought to People of Distinction today by some of the best movers in the business. Author Reputation Press Publishing. If you have a book that you'd like moved, move it through Author Reputation Press. You can find them at authorreputationpress.com. And guys, I am so excited to have Jeannette here on the line. Not only am I excited to have her on the line because, A, this is her 3rd time being with us. We also discussed her other 2 titles, Journeying, Where Shamanism and Psychology Meet, but also her 2nd title, The Paradoxical Return of the Feminine, Journeys to Raise Awareness and Create Peace, on 2 previous episodes as well. But this time, we're going to be discussing Grow Up Your Ego, 10 Scientifically Validated Stages to Emotional and Spiritual Maturity. It's such a great book with such a powerful message. And really, what's discussed in this book, of course, there's 10 steps, as the title states, but it really helps people mature spiritually and emotionally. And I think that so often those are things that get overlooked and don't get focused on as much as they need. And listen, we all know that you can grow up, but just because you're getting higher in age doesn't necessarily mean that your spirituality and your emotional maturity are at that same point. And Jeannette has configured 10 specific steps, and she's going to be able to explain this so very well. So listen, without further ado, let's jump right in. Let's bring her here on the line with us. Jeannette, thank you so much for, again, being a guest with us on People of Distinction. How are you today?
I'm fine.
Fantastic. Wonderful to have you on here again. Now, Jeannette, before we get into the book, okay, let's just start off. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us some of your background, please.
Well, I grew up in the Midwest, and I grew up in a German Catholic family, which was not religious and not spiritual. And furthermore, their knowledge of human emotions was almost non-existent. Being and showing anger was not allowed. When I was in grade school and went to confession, I told the priest, I've had bad thoughts every day. When I was 4 years old, my mother was diagnosed with ovarian cancer and died when I was 8 years old. I remember standing at her grave as her casket was lowered into the ground and thinking it is she that died and not me. I did feel my father loved me, and in some way we bonded. I bonded with an older sister who gave me considerable attention and encouraged me to become a nurse as she had done. When I entered Marquette University to obtain a degree in nursing, I saw a Jesuit priest for counseling, which was of great help as he explained that many of my concerns were normal and they were not sins. I married a medical student. We had 5 children and raised them differently than I had been. When the children were almost grown, I returned to college and obtained a degree in mental health nursing, followed by obtaining a PhD in counseling psychology, all of which contribute to broader scientific understanding of emotions and bonding. Increasingly, I acknowledge my feelings and furthermore learned of the scientific research as given in the Grow Up Your Ego book. The importance of emotions can no longer be ignored. Part of our humanness is to feel our feelings, such as anger, and express it in a way that involves no harm to self or others. For example, when I discovered I had been betrayed by a colleague in a safe environment, I shouted angry words and beat my arms and hands on the pillow until the anger was released instead of the person.
Absolutely. You know, Jeannette, this is all so incredible. Listen, guys, as she's just stated, I mean, she has multiple degrees. This is something that she knows. These 10 scientifically validated stages to emotional and spiritual maturity. This isn't just words that she thought would be nice on a page. It's backed with factual basis. Now, as we go on, let's delve more specifically into this particular book. Now, I know we've already started going into it in terms of, really how you utilized it yourself. Now, tell us a little bit about the book. You state that there are 10 scientifically validated stages to emotional and spiritual maturity.
Yes. The first 5 stages involve bonding with their parents, being self-protected, in which the child knows there are rules, yet the main rule is not to get caught. Research shows a good number of individuals falter at this stage as adults. They are deceptive, competitive, and controlling. Furthermore, in the 5th conformist stage, the person copies behaviors of the social group and is preoccupied with appearance, material things, reputation, and thinks of life and relationships in simplistic ways, such as good, bad, always, never. In the 6th stage, the person develops a growing awareness of life, appreciates multiple possibilities and situations, believes there are exceptions to rules that are possible, and has increasing acceptance of individual differences. The 7th stage is the conscientious stage, where lessons learned during the 6th self-aware stage are applied. Sorting out and discarding what is no longer useful is difficult, as we experience the world in a different way than our forebears. The challenge of shared gender responsibilities and risk of emotional intimacy constitutes scarier fare. The 8th stage is the individualist stage, in which the self is viewed as a unique entity, understands that conflicts between independence and dependence is central to the 8th stage and values it. The 9th stage is the autonomous stage, in which the individual strives to be the most one can be, knows the core identity is self-generated. One's perspective of the unique self as self is determined intensifies, values and pursues self-fulfillment, self-actualization, and self-insight, expects and accepts complexity. Reasoning and analysis are aided by feelings and intuition, increases in one's capacity to transcend polarities, integrates experiences from many perspectives. Personal relationships are cherished and accepted as autonomous. Embrace universal social ideals. One's higher development brings one closer to the truth. The 10th stage is the construct-aware, universal, integrated stages in which one strives to be aware, has the capacity to acknowledge and cope with inner conflict, explore habits and processes of the mind, knows and embraces self-identification as a complex phenomenon, ultimately discovers the mind alone cannot provide what is sought, yearns to transcend the ego. The journey up through the stages may seem lifelong. The journey up through the stages is inward. From within, we live in the land we dream of, where ego maturity allows us to be exactly who we are meant to be, where we experience joy and love without bounds, and where hearts are on fire with compassion that transform the planetary soul.
Wow. So many great points and so much to unpack there. Once again, here on the line with Jeannette Gagan, discussing her book, Grow Up Your Ego, 10 Scientifically Validated Stages to Emotional and Spiritual Maturity. Available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, but do yourself a favor and head directly to her personal website, RioChamaPublications.com, to purchase the book there, learn more information about this book and as well as her other titles, and about Jeannette herself. You know, Jeannette, that is absolutely incredible. I mean, hearing you go through and discuss all 10 stages that way. And of course, listen, you know, we're just scratching the surface, right? Which is so incredible that, you know, listen, we went through each one of the stages, but there's so much more that needs to be explored. And really, there's so much more that can be gained from that. And I am just so excited to have you here on the line to explain this to our audience. Next thing that I really want to go into, Jeannette, is, you know, we understand the book. We know what it's about. What inspired you to embark upon this journey and create a narrative of this sort?
When I was a child, nothing like this was known.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that life had to be different. I don't know if I said before that there was a popular saying, children are to be seen and not heard. When a repairman was working on my house, he said to my father, the baby in the crib has been crying for a long time. And my father replied, that's how we do things in this household. Crying toughens babies.
You know, what's incredible about this book, Jeannette, is, again, you're using so much of your own experience to really inspire and push along this narrative and through your education and really showcasing that.
Yes.
Now, moving on, so we know about the inspiration. Why did you feel that this was a book that needed to be written for the public and wasn't something that you just explored on your own and learned yourself, but definitely felt that the public would be able to benefit from it as well?
Because no one had written a book like this. But no one ever presented the 10 stages and what helps people move through them and become spiritually and emotionally evolved.
Mm-hmm. As we start to tie this one up, because we do have your other titles that I want to just quickly touch up on and highlight for our audience as well, what is one central message? And I'm sure there's a lot of different themes that can be pulled from this book. But if there's one main message that you really want our listening audience here at People of Distinction to know about your book, Grow Up Your Ego, what would that message be?
It's an excellent question. And I have said this before, the journey up through the stages is inward, from within. We live in the land we dream of where our eager maturity allows us to be exactly who we are meant to be, where we experience joy and love without bounds, and where hearts are on fire with compassion to transform the planetary soul. And we all know that the planet certainly needs that right now.
Mm-hmm. Such a great message. Guys, get out there and pick up this book. Again, On the Line with Jeannette Gagan. We just finished discussing her book, Grow Up Your Ego, 10 Scientifically Validated Stages to Emotional and Spiritual Maturity. Again, available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, but go directly to her website, RioChamaPublications.com, to get the full experience. But guys, that's not all. Jeannette has 2 other titles as well that are proven to be just as educational. And we're going to take a look at these other 2 books really quickly as well. The first one is Journeying, Where Shamanism and Psychology Meet. Jeannette, tell us a little bit about that narrative, please.
Well, shamanism is the oldest healing tradition known to humankind, which is very important for people to realize, because healing happens in many ways, and when we tap into how it's been done eons ago, it can be very, very powerful.
Wonderfully said. And then the last one is The Paradoxical Return of the Feminine. Journeys to Raise Awareness and Create Peace. Talk to us a little bit about that one, please.
Well, that's a book that's somewhat of a memoir that I wrote about myself and what I've gone through in life to get where I am, which hopefully can inspire people that when they go through difficult times, especially emotionally, that they can survive and help save the planet.
Jeannette, such an impactful narrative. I mean, really, all three of them. Listen, you need to be commended because the work that you've comprised and put together for us is absolutely astounding. Guys, get out there, pick up a copy of each one of these books. I mean, listen, do yourself a favor, learn from these narratives that Jeannette has brought to our table. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, listen, let's call a spade, okay? Given the current situation that we're all facing globally with this pandemic, we're spending a lot of time at home, right? Let's call a spade.
Yes, we are.
It's a lot of time we're spending at home. So why not educate yourself? Why not utilize this time to really push forward and, be able to leave the confines of your home? You may not be able to physically leave it, but mentally there's nothing holding you, right? Get out there and pick up all three of these titles. We started off with Grow Up Your Ego, 10 scientifically validated stages to emotional and spiritual maturity. Then we went into Journeying, where shamanism and psychology meet. Lastly, The Paradoxical Return of the Feminine, Journeys to Raise Awareness and Create Peace. Jeannette Gagan, thank you so very much. Listen, third time's a charm, right? And I thoroughly enjoyed having you here with us each one of those times. And, hopefully when you come out with the fourth one, we'll have you right back on here again, okay? Thank you very much for being a guest with us on People of Distinction.
Thank you. I think that was excellent. You do an excellent job.